Kevin. Okay. All right, call the meeting to order. Let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Holmes,
Here.
Mr. Fernandez.
Here.
Mr. Paradis.
Here.
Mr. Bordenaro,
Here.
Mr. Grady.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, let's start off with public comments. We have people who signed up. I'm assuming we got people on Zoom, and then we'll take any other comments. We like to limit the comments to 2 minutes because we have a long night tonight with respect to going through our budget. And there won't be any back and forth discussion. It's just your comments that are, we'll listen to. And thanks for everyone who attended. So let's start with Cynthia Pavano. And when you get up to the podium, just state your name again and your address, please.
My name is Cynthia Pavano. I live at 57 Meeting House Road in town. I have spoken at the Charter Commission to vote to keep the VNA very active. The election overwhelmingly supported the Visiting Nurse Association. Seems to me that members today elected to serve our community don't seem to care about seniors, children, or now even those needing home care. Shame on you all. The VNA provides outstanding care. My own twin sister, we were 86 by the way, has used the VNA and is now using it. And I understand the mayor who is sitting here also used the VNA himself. She says every single person that has come has been under absolutely outstanding and wonderful and caring. I have used the VNA for my son, my husband. And I understand two friends out of town try to use healthcare in their towns, only to find that some of these healthcare agencies do not have any staff. So they might get the nurse one day and have to wait for a week or 10 days for a nurse or physical therapist. I'm an old registered nurse for 66 years. I am saying to you people, do not cut 1 penny from the VNA. Looks like some of you might need it. You will regret cutting back on this VNA the rest of your life. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Donna Bove.
Hey there. I'm here tonight representing the Parks and Rec Commission.
State your name again and address, please.
Bove, 85 Steepleview Drive. You can't hear me. That's boy. 85 Steepleview Drive, Berlin. Here to talk about capital spending. I viewed the YouTube presentation or discussion that you guys had last week on the playgrounds. Came up at our meeting. We've had several people attend our meetings, some of which I recognize here tonight, regarding the playgrounds. Included in the list that you had last week was 175,000 for Willard for the playground, 200,000 Little People's. So playgrounds, like everything else, require upgrades at certain points in time. The Willard School playground is the last of the school playgrounds to be updated. There have been some things done for safety reasons, which obviously we take care of immediately. But we do need to change it up. The equipment, both playgrounds, probably over 20 years old for the most part. Things have changed. There's new ideas out there. Kids are a little more active. Also, we like to adapt them for various disabilities, ages, make it age appropriate. So with that, we ask you to really consider, it didn't seem like you guys were going to approve the expenditures. Would ask you to reconsider that for capital spending for the town council to consider. We're happy to go through details with staff as well of ourselves before you make any final decision. You know, just going there and seeing it, there's a little bit more behind the scenes. We know you have a lot to consider. We really believe if you don't start upgrading things and changing things around, you're going to be squeezed at some point. We already know that a playground, Friendship Place, you know, the flooring will have to be replaced probably next year. So if you should approve those funds, 175,000 for Willard, 200,000 for Little People's, that will allow us to order the equipment, you know, design, order the equipment, and probably not install it until the summer of 2024, next year. There's a backlog, you know, ordering things like that. So ask you to please reconsider, discuss, and again, we're available at any point in time along with the staff to go through details with you.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
thank you. Next is Crystal Van Gorder.
Thank you. Hi, Crystal Van Gorder, 28 Glenbrook Road. Yes, I'm actually here. I'm so glad that she had already mentioned, Donna had mentioned the parks. That's why I'm here. That's why I've been coming to some of the meetings, because if you actually do take a closer look at our parks, you will realize that it's not only not handicap accessible, it's not accessible for little ones, but it's also rusted and dirty and quite frankly dangerous for our children. I think if you look at it from far away, it looks good, but when you get up close, it's not pretty. So we definitely need some changes. I did hear the Board of Finance meeting, and I was a little taken aback when I heard someone say, they're in good, okay condition. And I don't even know why we're entertaining the idea of putting money into it. I was quite honestly a little bit, if I use the word, disgusted. So I'm hoping that with all the moms here, the ones who are here supporting and the ones who are on Zoom tonight, we will be able to keep some of those funds because our children deserve it. The town deserves it. It's a good town with great people. And I think we should show that by upkeeping the property and making it a great place to live.
Thank you, thank you. Carol Webb. Well, sorry.
I'm Carol Wells, 1308 Orchard Road in Kensington. I'm here the president of the Board of Directors of the Berlin Free Library Association. And I'm here to address issues of their budget. Everyone here may not know that the Berlin Free Library Association was incorporated by the Connecticut General Assembly in January 1893. We were the first library in the state to have this distinction. According to our charter, the property was donated to us to use as a library and cannot be used for anything else except artwork or articles dealing with the history of Berlin. Unlike the other small library in town, we have all the expenses that come with the maintenance of an old building in the historical district of town. We pay for our own lawn service, snow removal, electricity, all of our repairs and painting. In the last few years, we had to replace our bell tower. At that time, we hoped to save money by covering it with siding that didn't need painting every 4 to 5 years. But because of being in the historical district, it had to be replaced and built as it was, which cost us a lot of money. This was a huge expense for us. We did receive some donations, but had to dip into our principal of our small investment portfolio. Also, we pay for our insurance, which the town's contribution just about covers. All these costs, plus paying our staff, buying books, is not covered by the endowment that goes with the library building. We have had to start going into our principal of our portfolio just to meet everyday expenses. We only get 3 to 4% of the endowment every year. So with all these costs, we really need the town's help. We have a regular group of borrowers and a reading group, plus we run a children's program for the younger children. Please consider all these things when making your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next is Jurgen.
And Jurgen, 561 Percival Ave. I encourage you to support the Board of Ed's adopted budget with a 5.8% increase. This increase is essential for maintaining the resources we currently have available and adding minimal funding for other basic needs of our schools. You are well aware that the 4.24% of this increase is contractual obligations for existing positions, which means significant cuts if will take place if you go any lower than that. We are at a critical time in our community and cannot afford any cuts to our education budget. I believe that anything lower than the 5.84% will be unfair and detrimental to our schools. My husband and I chose to move to Berlin 24 years ago, in part because of the school system. And I believe others have made the same choice. And we have to stay competitive in what we offer to stay attractive as a place to live. And what we offer in our educational system is key to that. And we offer so much in our schools. We have smaller class sizes, special education and counseling support resources, extracurricular activities from basketball to robotics to drama club, and technology in so many aspects of our learning environments. Do you know that 5th graders are creating public service announcements with technology in the classrooms that are as good as what we see on television? 8th grade and 12th grade students are putting together presentations that are impactful and professional quality with their Quest and Capstone requirements. These are technology skills that they will have for a lifetime. Staff are providing opportunities to expose students early to rich learning resources. That does not happen everywhere, but it's happening here in Berlin. And it isn't extra, it's essential. 8th graders are integrating vocabulary skills to art projects. Science labs are being used to drive our kids to enjoy connecting science and mathematics. We have seniors in high school graduating with EMT certifications. And seriously, these kids could be saving us when we're in an accident or have a medical emergency. And kids are staying healthy while enjoying being on athletic teams. McGee just added a volleyball program and 100 kids just showed up for it. The list goes on. We have top-notch educators in the classrooms in Berlin, and this is how our educational system stays competitive and attractive. But it's only sustainable when it's fully supported financially. Please do the right thing for our community. Find a way to support the Board of Ed's proposed budget. Don't force us to have to witness seeing critical programs and resources being cut. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Imelda Angelo.
Imelda Angelo, 86 Devonshire Way. First of all, I got to say that it's really nice to be sitting here facing you instead of behind you. So thank you for changing the location. I too am here in support of the Board of Education budget with the 4.25% only for contractual obligations. Anything less than that, as Jen mentioned, is going to be detrimental and cuts. I continue to think about 4 years ago, where there were 5, 6, 10 teachers being cut across the board and the impact that that had. We shouldn't forget the impact of what COVID has continued to provide. Any cuts in the budget is going to require larger class sizes, but who's actually going to feel that? It's not going to be any of you. How many of you actually have kids still in the school system? I could probably say one of you. Yep, exactly. No, I know. So who's going to feel it? You're not going to feel it. I understand you have a big charge with balancing all of the books, all of the budgets, not only Board of Ed, but the town accountant, the town as well. It's a lot to do. I understand that, but the kids are going to feel this and they're going to feel it firsthand. The teachers are going to feel it. They're going to be asked to continue to put up and do the same work with a lot less amongst all the other demands that they have on them also. The administrators are going to feel it. They're going to have to figure out how to make ends meet with less budget, less resources, less people. Who knows? Sports may get cut, arts might get cut, band might get cut. And that's the sanity of what our kids have today. So one of the comments that I heard at one of the Board of Finance meetings, I was also couldn't believe what I was hearing. So if the budget is not approved and they only have a 2% increase, you're going to figure out how to continue to operate. But you didn't ask, how did you operate? Was it healthy? Was it a good environment? How many teachers did you have to cut? Of course, you have to continue to operate. But I didn't understand where that question was coming from, because if that's what you're given, you're going to make the best of it and you work at it. But there were definitely implications to that. So I strongly encourage you to think about what the implications are going to be if the adopted budget is not accepted for the Board of Education, for our students that are continuing to attend the schools. And I have a middle schooler and I have a high schooler, and I can feel this firsthand. And again, 4 years ago was just, it was crazy what had happened. So I strongly urge you to think about how to make it happen so that we don't have to go through those types of cuts. Thank you.
Thank you. Samantha Sullivan.
Hi, my name is Samantha Sullivan. I live on 18 Garden Drive. I'm also here in support of the parks, and the education and the free library. I know you're probably sick of hearing it. All you hear is, we need money, but who's here? Who's here right now? Who's here fighting for the money? These are the people that are passionate for it. This is where it has to go. Police department, I agree, is important. It's like a thing that we need. But when kids lose parks, when they lose extracurricular activities, when they lose sports and music and art and all these things, then yeah, we're gonna need a better police department. So sure. But like she said, my friend Crystal here said that from a distance, the parks look good. No, they don't. Oh, look from a distance. Willard got updated when I was 4, like very young. Great. But it's still very, there's a lot of things broken with it. My daughter went to the preschool there for 2 years and we couldn't go there. Couldn't go there before her classes and we couldn't go there after she got out of school. So it's kind of like why does that one have to be the one that gets all the money when you can't even go there when you have a little kid? Worthington Ridge Park. Have you guys ever been there? Okay. That park is a potentially great park. It's in a good area. It has a lot of space in the back. It's right near I teach tot time at the Worthington Ridge Church, and I go to the free library. We all go walk up to the park because that's the only option. My 1.5-year-old got sliced really bad last week on a rusty piece of stair, which I have photos. It sucked. And that's our choice. I have a niece who's in a wheelchair. Can't bring her to that park. Can't bring her to the Little People's Park. Got to go to Newington. Even the one at the chair at that Friendship Place doesn't work. So it's not a lot of options. I would love to give you a tour before you make these decisions. Again, I know it's a lot. I'll show you, and I'll show you in activity. I'll bring my 1-year-old and my 6-year-old. You'll see it's very dangerous. There's all these drops like were they made in the 60s? It's insane. I know we were tougher. Yeah, everyone was tougher back then, but there's different times now. Now, parks, again, prevent crime. They enhance quality of life. They encourage healthy lifestyles. How great would it be if we had workout activities like for adults too, not just kids? We don't have that. So just please consider before you cut all these monies. It's so important. I know it might be far away from many of you. I don't know how old your kids are, but parks are great for little kids, older kids. Oh, great. Salty. Do you go to Berlin parks that often? Do you wish that they were better? Right. You guys have power. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I think what we'll do is before we go to Zoom, is there anybody in this audience here that wants to speak? Okay. It's a budget meeting. Please state your name and your address.
Joseph Edwards, UTKIEWICC. Forever to spell that. 560 Oldgate Road, Berlin, Connecticut. And I have some questions. I got a flyer and I understand that we are in the process. Oh, let me give you my background before I do this. Okay, so you know I'm a Berlinite. I put 25, 30 years in the Berlin Fire Department. My wife put in 20 years as an ambulance driver and helper, and my wife also after 2 years. Oh yeah, I want to know what happened to this vote the last election. You're trying to do away with the VNA, right? Oh.
Not trying to do away with it.
Yeah, well,
Well, I wish I had the copy of the thing I got in the mail.
sir, this is your comments. You can make comments, but it's not a back and forth discussion. So give us your comments and then, we'll.
I was just getting up to scream and yell about why are we taking them away? We had a vote on it this spring. And they voted to keep it. And now they're trying to get rid of it again.
No, we're not.
I'm reading the wrong paper then. I wish I brought the paper with me. I apologize.
No, we're making budget adjustments, but we're not.
Okay,
Okay,
because I was under the impression you're looking to get rid of
no,
the NA.
No.
Okay, I apologize.
oh, it's okay. That's okay. I'm glad you came. That's okay. Thank you. Okay, we have want to go to Zoom? Anybody on Zoom?
Yes, Sam Lamaglio, 78 Hickory Hill Road. How are you today?
Good. Okay,
When I was chairman of, how are you? When I was chairman of the Board of Finance 2 years ago, and for 4 years, we tried to address the problems with the VNA. Each time, we were stopped by Corporation Counsel. I think some of you remember that. 2 years ago, there's a proposal to cut approximately, I think it was 400,000, give or take 100,000 up or down. And we had discussed it, and then the town manager came in and brought in the Corporation Counsel. Corporation Counsel said, and I'm paraphrasing, that we couldn't do any cuts on the VNA because there were state regulations that prevented us from cutting the VNA because we'd be cutting services and we would need a 60-day window to inform the clients that there was services being cut or nurses being cut. And since there was a referendum, we wouldn't fit that 60-day window. So we as a board decided not to cut the 400,000. And the chair and the Corporation Counsel, the only way we can fix the VNA is through charter revision. So we had our charter revision, and the people in the community voted to keep the visiting nurses. So what I think this is what's going on is that the Board of Finance is trying to address the problem, and I understand the problem, but the people have already addressed the problem. They quite frankly don't care if the visiting nurses are losing money or whatever. They like the services. So my opinion is that we should just keep the budget of the VNA going the way it is. And I understand that you want to try to balance the budget. I was in your shoes. I was in your shoes at the beginning of my first term as chairman of the Board of Finance. We had reval, and it was difficult. I mean, I know it's more difficult today because the property values have gone on, and you guys have a difficult job. I understand that. But to balance the budget on the backs of the VNA is not right. It's just not right because What the nurses did during COVID, they were out there treating patients and everything while we were staying home. And this is just like a slap in the face to the nurses, and it's a slap in the face to the voters. So I strongly disagree. And I also want to answer to George Millar, and I know I don't want to go back and forth with you, George, but I tried to address that when I was on the Board of Finance. Corporation Counsel stopped us. But the question I asked the council is that before the Board of Finance was intact, the council had the same opportunity to do the same thing and fix the visit nurses, because this is not a problem that has occurred for the past few years. This is a problem that has occurred for 10 years. And each council had an opportunity to do it, but they didn't do it because of the state regulations. So let's just keep the nurses go the way it is, and let's try to balance the budget. And I understand that taxes might go up, and I understand revalve, and I understand my property values have gone up, my taxes are going up. I'm willing to pay a little more to keep the visiting nurses, and I think the public is too. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on Zoom?
Hi, my name is Melissa Kermer. I live at 148 Glen Street. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there today, but it's my daughter's 3rd birthday. But I did take time out from celebrating with her because I am very concerned about a lot of the talk of cutting the support for the parks and the libraries and the VNA and the Board of Ed. As a mom, I really want my kids to have the best opportunities. And focusing on their education as well as them learning when they're playing on the playground with other kids is very important to me. I have reached out to Parks and Recreation to discuss the state of the playgrounds. We used to go to Little People's Playground all the time when my oldest was a little bit younger, but things are starting to fall apart. I've sent messages about my safety concerns. My daughter, the youngest, loves to go up and down the stairs, and there's exposed metal on multiple stairs. And I'm terrified that she will fall and get severely injured because of the exposed metal. We really need to remember that we are a community that focuses on these important things, you know, with the young families and even the elderly who need the VNA. I really hope that our money is going towards these important topics so that they can be addressed, so that they get the money and the care that we all need. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, my name is Sarah Patel. I live at 65 Sabona Road here in Berlin. I am extremely concerned regarding the cuts that are being talked about for the Board of Education. Obviously, I'm also concerned about other things, but as a mom of 2 children that are school aged, I think it's very important that we put forward a budget that not just is mediocrity. We have amazing educators in town. We have amazing students in town, and they deserve our support. As an example of some of the wonderful teachers, and this is outside the classroom that my son has experienced. Just this past week, the 6th grade boys basketball played in their playoff game. And there were teachers on a Sunday afternoon that traveled from wherever they live to Cheshire to watch these boys play basketball because they had been developing these relationships with our children. That is almost unheard of in other places. These teachers deserve us, they deserve our support, and they deserve that in their pay, in their thanks from our community. And when we talk about a budget that does not support that, I become very concerned. Anything less than the minimum to meet contractual obligations will be cuts, severe cuts. And you can't get those types of cuts without cutting people and people losing their jobs. And I think that that would be a terrible shame because the teachers in our town go above and beyond. So I just wanted to come on and really implore you to give the kids the best that you can by supporting our teachers because they deserve it. They work hard.
Thank you. There's someone else?
Yeah, hi, this is Kara Stauss, 67 Metacomet Drive. I would like to make comment in support of the VNA. I currently serve as chair of the VNA and had the opportunity to listen to several of the meetings and discussion on the budget and proposed, cut of about 300,000 to the budget of the VNA. And I just want to point out, in my year of serving in the board of the VNA, knowing being in healthcare for 25 years, the cost of healthcare and the delivery of healthcare has risen exponentially. As most of you know, everybody needs healthcare. You must all see it as you read your explanation of benefits and what you're paying as a consumer. You can see that drug prices are rising, an aging population, chronic disease are all factors, but most importantly, the COVID-19 pandemic exacerbated all of these costs to the delivery of home care. And as Sam mentioned, the nursing staff, not only at the VNA, but nurses and healthcare workers around the country went to work during this pandemic, and we're still seeing the effects, the long-term effects of a pandemic. The problem with the VNA has existed, as many have pointed out, for several years, and we continue to hear about this time and time again. Aaliyah, who is the director and administrator supervisor wearing multiple hats in the VNA, is just about rounding her 1-year anniversary within her position at the VNA. And I'd like to point out and give credit where credit is due, because it wasn't given to her when Kevin pointed out small strides that are being made financially at the last meeting. And I think that is disappointing from the Board of Finance to not acknowledge that there is improvements that are being made, albeit slight. It's still a positive improvement, and it should be recognized that the VNA is making difference. There was a comment also that was brought up regarding what services does the VNA need to provide. And as part of the charter and the bylaws, obviously in accordance with the state of Connecticut, statutes, as a licensed and certified home care agency, there are requirements that you must provide professional nursing services. If you're not providing those nursing services within your agency, you must provide them directly through contract. So the long and short of it is, if you're not providing them and you're contracting with the services, you're still going to pay a fee for that. And so with that consideration, there would be many things to consider. I could go on endlessly about considerations. The VNA would still have oversight and be responsible, but the town would have responsibilities from an insurance standpoint and a liability standpoint, from a quality of care standpoint. There'd be contractual obligations. There would be coordination of care. There would be endless issues when considering contractual obligations. So, I do wish there was a greater understanding with the conditions of participation under Medicare, with the statutory requirements of the Department of Public Health, and understanding what the requirements to be a licensed and certified agency under the regulations set forth by the state of Connecticut. And I do wish that you would allow Aaliyah and the team to continue to make the necessary changes, to continue to work to make the agency what it has the potential to be. I am personally experiencing the agency right now with my father, who has been on service. And I can tell you, if you were to contract services, you would not have the same clinical care staff providing care to you as a resident. You would be served with a different person each day to try to fill the case, because that's what happens in larger home care agencies. So again, I strongly urge you to consider allowing the agency to continue to operate and make a difference with the current administration. Give her time. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yes. My name is Peter Zerbozo, 158 Elwood Road. For the sake of time, I just want to say that I agree fully with Kara Stauss's and Sam O'Maglio's public comment and testimony regarding the VNA. I'm a registered nurse of 12 years and have worked in various capacities and different healthcare facilities. So I have seen how the quality of care can vary from different healthcare corporations and services. Our VNA service in town is literally 5-star rated. It is a quality service. The townspeople know this, and that is why they voted in November in the charter referendum to defend the VNA and keep it enshrined in the charter because they value this service. The opposition clearly illustrated and notified the public that the VNA was taking losses, and the public did not care because this is a public service. What I think the town and the Board of Finance and people in this room need to ask themselves is the VNA a business or a public service? In my opinion, it is a public service serving our community, much like the schools, much like the library, much like the police. We don't look at the police budget, whatever it might be, and say, for instance, oh my God, the police are losing $6 million a year. No, because we all collectively understand that it's a public service. To get into the meat of the matter, I understand that the Board of Finance wants to cut the VNA by approximately $300,000, which is one, legally questionable, but two, it's predicated on the idea that you do not want the VNA going out of town and providing services to outside towns. But this stance is a little bit contradictory and schizophrenic, and it's not really giving the director or the VNA board clear guidance on how you want the VNA to operate, because you're coming at it as a business. And if you cut that revenue and you say, we don't want you serving out of town people, and you cut that staff that can collect that revenue, then you need to understand that it's a public service and the people are willing to pay for this service, even if it's taking a loss. So truthfully, the people have already decided that they're okay with the VNA the way it's running. And I don't know why you think you have the right to cut the budget when the people have already decided that they're perfectly okay with the way it's going. Furthermore, if you're going to decide that you want to cut this and you want to keep it in Berlin and you want and need and want to allow the public to have exquisite VNA services, I have no doubt that the new director, Leah Anderson, will do a fantastic job. She comes from Hartford Healthcare. She's already been a good steward of the VNA with the little means and skeleton crew she has. But again, it's a public service, and the VNA provides quality service. You pay for what you get. Leave it alone. The people have already spoken.
Thank you. Anyone else? Going once?
Hi, I might take, yeah, my name is Justina Sadlowski. I live on 804 Beckley Road in town. So I don't want to sound redundant, but I just want to repeat the same thing about the Parks and Recreation and saving the playgrounds. That is all big safety reasons for us not to go to playgrounds. I have 3 kids, they are 2, 4, and 6. And I just stopped going to playgrounds in town because they're being very dangerous. As other parents already mentioned, they're very rusty, their pieces are either missing or broken. It is a safety and issue, of course, but I'm looking at it as a way for us, all of us, to go and enjoy and also have the kids, the activities. There are a lot of kids that cannot afford to go to like extracurricular activities. And this is the only place for them to go and enjoy the activities, running around, making friends, just, for us adults, just have little talks, because a lot of us actually do not work. We stay at home with them, the little ones. And that's the only way for us to communicate and just spend some time and have adult talks. So it is a way of communication for us adults too, a peace of mind. The other thing is, like, I want to mention that if you do cut budgets now and do not spend the money on the equipment and updating them, it will only pile up. Looking in the future, where do we go from now to 10 and 20 years from now? How much money will you be spending on updating the equipment? Are you going to close eventually the playgrounds and not allow go to people because it would be like so rusty and dangerous? So if you start cutting the budget now, like, where do we go from now? What do you say, mother and the father go, to the little one and play? Like, you have to look in the future, and that will impact us as a parents, also our children. just like the other parent mentioned about the pandemic, it all has long-term effects. So you have to really think, not just like money and budgeting, you have to think mental health. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sorry.
Len Solinski, 24 Winesap Road. This is budget related, but it's kind of a public service announcement. It's got to do with the VNA. These gentlemen are going to do what they feel they have to do. But we've got a pretty good crowd here tonight. I can see by the screen, there's a lot of people watching as well. What you've got to know is if you go to the local hospitals, whether it's in Britain or Hartford, and I've had personal experience, my wife has had personal experience, had friends. But when you get out and they ask you if you want home care, they are not going to recommend Berlin VNA. They are going to try to push you to Hartford Healthcare. I have had friends tell me that they have had to argue with the case managers to get Berlin VNA. You've got to tell your friends, the other people watching have to tell your friends that if your family needs nursing assistance, it's your right to use the Berlin VNA. Now, somebody mentioned about going out of town. Part of that may be because of any business that's operating is looking for sales volume. You're only going to get your sales volume if all the residents spread the word, their friends and relatives, that you're entitled to use VNA. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any more? Okay. Next on the line.
Hello, I'm Melissa Uranga, 1075 Orchard Road. I wanted to speak on behalf of the Board of Education budget. As a parent with 4 children in all 3 levels of the schools in town, I feel it's important to reiterate the value of our kids' education. And what we put into our kids' education is what we get back, not just for our kids and not just where our kids go, but also in the bottom line of our property values. When people are looking to move to Berlin, they're looking at our schools. They're looking at our education. And we need to invest in our kids and continue to invest in our kids. We need to continue to invest in the quality education that we have, the teachers that go out of their way to connect to our kids, and looking out for our kids, not only for their educational well-being, but for their social and emotional well-being as well. We know that the pandemic has played a lot of effects and changed the outlook of teaching and made there are fewer quality teachers out there because people don't want to get into it. And we are lucky in this town to have such a committed staff and committed professionals willing that are invested in our kids. And we need to invest in them now. We need to show them that we're committed to them so that they don't go elsewhere. So our kids don't lose out. And so we as a town don't lose out. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hi, my name is Jess Lidke. I'm at 522 Main Street, East Berlin. And I want to just echo everything that was just said about the Board of Ed. My son is a first grader at Hubbard, and we have been so thrilled with his experience there, with the small class sizes, with the dedicated teachers. Every staff person knows my son's name, greets him every morning, cares for him. It's such a small, wonderful community. And I know that we have friends in other parts of the state and in other states that don't have nearly as supportive a school community as we have here. And when our son was young and we were looking to buy a home and set roots down somewhere, we came to Berlin because we saw how great the school system is here. And I know that that is what is attracting young families to our town. I know that it is what we really need to invest in and keep going here. So I need to put in my 2 cents in support of our schools as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
The person who has Galaxy Tab A, you have your hand up. Do you want to address the board? Aaliyah, do you want to address the board?
If they'll let me.
Of course.
Thank you. I know I'm not a citizen of Berlin, but being the director of the Berlin VNA, I just really wanted to give one more plea, I guess, to the Board of Finance to just work with me. The cut that is proposed, $300,000, would be detrimental to the VNA. It would mean a loss of personnel, some of whom are Berlin residents themselves. And these are not easily replaceable staff. It's not like we can just go get a per diem staff who's going to cost less money and they're going to give the same quality of care. They're just not replaceable like that. And I know that the mayor and town council and members of the Board of Finance back in the charter discussions, and I'm not trying to drag that back up, but said that the goal is not for people to lose their jobs and that you want to work with me. But with what you're asking, the result is the loss of jobs, and the domino effect of that is possible loss in quality and for sure loss in revenue. So it's just
Berlin Board of
a
Finance
cycle.
where they're talking about the school budget, the parks budget, all that shit.
Sorry, Aaliyah, go ahead.
Thank you, Barbara.
So not sure where I left off there in my thought. But so the domino effect of this cut is a loss of personnel for sure, a loss of revenue for sure, because we can't bring in what we bring in or more with less staff. And a possible quality dip in the quality of care, because then we're trying to take care of the same amount of patients with less staff, which we can't do. So then we have to just serve less people and say possibly no to Berlin residents. The only way out in my eyes is growth. And I really believe that that can happen. And I really want to work with the Board of Finance to make budgets that make sense. And maybe this year, this one doesn't make sense to you, but you have voice that, you have a lack of knowledge in how we operate and how things work. It is a very complicated, different type of business. And I would love to have more time to work with you and to move forward and make the VNA successful versus just trying to continually cut it over and over again to meet what you want in the budget. And just to speak on behalf of citizens in the town, I mean, the things that are on the table are all items that affect the most vulnerable of the population of the town. And I know, that the board's goal is financial, and I can respect that. And I can respect the goal of a zero tax increase, but what do the citizens lose in that? And, it's like we have to weigh the pros and cons. We have to balance it out. Yes, the taxes go up, but what do they get versus the taxes don't go up, but what do they lose? And my fear for the citizens of the town is that they may not have an increase in taxes or, may have a reduction in taxes, but that savings isn't enough to purchase the resources that they're losing from the cuts proposed across the town. So I'm just hoping that you'll give us this year to continue on what we've done. I know the progress that we've made hasn't been very significant at all, but again, it's only been the small things that we've been able to implement so far, but the small things have made the small financial impacts. So I can just see what can we do with the bigger changes and moving forward on our goals. So I hope that you will give us the time to do so. Thank you.
Anybody else? Ken?
Alyssa, do
Hi,
you want to speak again?
Yes, sorry. Jameson Uranga, 1075 Orchard Road. I'm a senior at Berlin High School, and I just wanted to talk about how I feel about the discussion over budget cuts towards education, because I know as someone who's looking to go into education and looking to go into teaching, the thing that is keeping me from wanting to come back to this town and teach and become a teacher here is the fact that I see the way the budget is going, and I see that year after year the budget keeps getting cut, and there's so many positions being cut, and there's so many opportunities being lost for the town. It's frankly just sad that I don't feel like I'm able to contribute to this town in my future. And by cutting these opportunities for students and teachers alike, you are kneecapping future generations in their ability to come back to this town and to contribute to the well-being of everyone around us. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lisa, do you want to speak?
Hi, my name is Margaret Pope. I live on 223 Spruce Brook Road in Berlin. I just want to bring something to everybody's attention. We are talking about the VNA and also education budget. If we cut the VNA budget, we are going to definitely affect school nursing. I don't think the public really knows that VNA and school nurses are one entity. And with the personnel loss through the VNA side, we definitely will have a domino effect and loss of personnel probably on a school side. So everybody who is worried about their kids in school or the elderly in a home will be affected. So not only a home care will be affected, but also school staff. Nursing, it's a really big important piece of education. Without healthy kids, there is no education taking place. We have sick kids with diabetes, seizures, and many other diseases. If we cut nurses on a VNA side, we will lose nurses on a school side. I'm not sure that the public is aware and willing to take that cut. Thank you.
So just one clarification, when we do talk VNA, we don't talk school nurses because it is a separate entity. School nurses are a separate entity. They're considered in Department 61, which is separate from the VNA organization.
Can I speak on that behalf, please?
Okay.
This is Patty Murphy, and I am the president of the Union of the Berlin VNA. So with that, they are not a separate entity. We are one bargaining unit. So we are VNA and the school nurses are one bargaining unit. It's not a separate entity. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, thank you. It's a separate entity from department levels, so you have a VNA that's an entirely different department that the school nurses are in a separate department. So when we talk VNA, we're talking about the VNA, not the school nurses, for your clarification.
I understand that, but regardless, we are still one bargaining union, and it's not a separate entity.
May I just give one clarifying, just one sentence to that, just to clarify where Margaret was speaking to?
Yes.
So what she means is that in the bargaining unit contract, the school nurses have a responsibility to assist the VNA when needed. So we've been fully staffed enough that we haven't had to pull anybody since I started in March, because last March, because that was my goal. They are two very separate types of nursing. The knowledge base is very different, and I didn't feel that it was safe. Not that the nurses in the schools are not adequate or knowledgeable, they're excellent, but they're two very distinct types of nursing, and they honestly just didn't feel comfortable in the opposite spaces. That's going both ways. So if VNA doesn't have enough nurses or staff, we do sometimes in the past have had to pull school staff to support the VNA. And that's in the union contract. So that's what Margaret is speaking about, that if, say, we have two nurses at the high school, but the VNA doesn't have enough nurses, we may have to pull one of those nurses from the high school to see patients in the community, leaving a school with, I'm not even sure how many hundred children, with one nurse. So that's what Margaret was speaking to. And there's also a liability concern with that, just because they're out of their element, but that's another topic. So I just wanted to clarify. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Is that it? All right. Well, I appreciate, everyone's input. It's really nice that we could see people face to face, not like we did in the past. And actually, the budget meetings have been non-eventful for us the last few years. We've had maybe 2 people in an auditorium, so it's great to have everyone here. I do want to clarify one thing on the Board of Education budget. In the last budget meeting, I put a chart together just to give people a flavor of, when the superintendent proposed a budget, what the actual budget approved. And then I also said, here's what was left over from surplus from those years, okay? So if you could put it up, Kevin, I appreciate that, because I just want people to understand that throughout the last few years, we've never given the total amount that the superintendent requested, okay? I'll go with the chart. Yeah, too small. But anyways, so you understand, the first set of columns are what the superintendent requested of the board, okay? The yellow bars are what is the approved budget, okay? And the green bars is at the end of the year, there's a certain amount, maybe a budget remaining or surplus remaining. This is what, in this case here, all they needed, and they had some surplus between what the approved budget and the end results was. Now, the point I'm trying to make is if they have surplus, that's fine. But the point is, Board of Education has been able to have high quality education with the level of budgets that we gave them throughout those years. And it's not the proposed budget. Okay, so the superintendent himself has said he's been happy with a 3% increase every year. So I just wanted to put it in perspective. Throughout these years, they've never gotten the full superintendent's budget, and they still have provided the high quality of service for students, haven't cut any programs and so forth. So, so to say that if we don't get the whole 4.8 or 5.8, this doesn't show that, okay, in the history of us providing budgets. So I just want you to be aware of that. Okay, thank you, Kevin. Okay, this closes the audience public comments, and we have to approve our minutes of them. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the February 14, 2023 regular meeting minutes?
This motion to approve the minutes of the February 14th, 2022 regular meeting and the March 1, 2022 regular budget.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
So moved. So you did the March 15th. Okay, let's, all right, new business, make a motion on item 1, Jerry.
Move to approve the transfer of $30,153.66 from the Hubbard Playground account and $9,846.34 from the key air quality account, both in the capital non-recurring fund to the buildings and renovations account and the police construction fund.
Second. Discussion?
Yes. This work, sorry, this work that's going to be done, this is going to be done by town employees?
Yeah, the work would be town employees done on overtime, and then the rest of the cost would be supplies, which is desks and storage.
That's, now, wouldn't you normally just put that through the budget and come up with a number afterwards to the cost, seeing as all these departments already have budgets? Why would we have to appropriate money up front to do a project? They already have budgets. So let them, find out what it's gonna cost to do the work, complete the work, and then they can, through a Roche, submit it to us.
Well, the Board of Ed will follow that process, but there was no money in the Board of Ed budget to do work clearing out the space to free up for police station project. So these would require Board of Ed dollars that were intended for other reasons to be used to pay for overtime. So this is essentially reimbursing the Board of Ed for costs that would be otherwise used for other items in the Board of Ed budget.
So this won't be dispersed until after the work is done.
Correct. They're going to submit their timesheets, go through the normal Board of Ed payroll process, and then the Board of Ed payroll specialist will notify us, and then we just do an accounting entry. We don't transfer money. We move it from the Board of Ed budget and put it in.
Okay, I understand. So they're not moving this money directly to Board of Ed.
Now, this is a reimbursement for actual salaries or equipment that was purchased. Like they need smaller desks to free up space in an open area that can then put storage on the walls where the larger tables have been.
Yeah, I was scratching my head on that one too. $18,000 for storing more. We need more storage space for files that we're digitizing.
This is not for files. This is for other items, electronics and other things that are stored in that area that are not being moved off site. There's a significant amount that are being moved to the basement at Willard. There's a significant amount that are actively in the process right now being digitized for paper. But then there are other supplies that need to remain on site and other files that are referenced regularly, especially related to kids with special needs or IEPs or other programs that are regularly referenced. They're going to be kept that are.
Okay, so this is more or less storage equipment for electronics and stuff like that.
Electronics and then some of the files that would be regularly referenced.
Okay.
No
All right,
comments?
this one.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moved. Okay. Want to give us an update quickly?
Be nice. It's been a long night. So everything finance is continuing as expected, as outlined last time. You've received all of the reports, so I'll just defer if you have any questions or comments.
Sorry, Kevin. The back page, the VNA. So $22,000 less than last year's February. It's because of new Medicare rules, presumably.
There's an element of that. There's also an element of timing sometimes.
Okay.
Reimbursements don't match cleanly always. We submit, the insurance company has their process, but volumes were down a little bit. Yes.
And we don't have the numbers yet, right? How many patients we have and which ones are in Berlin, which ones are outside of Berlin?
I'm finalizing that, but Aaliyah has an extensive spreadsheet, and we're trying to make sure we give you what is requested.
Thank you.
Can I check an accuracy on a number in here too? On page 64 of the section 1 of the budget book. This is on the VNA. It says Berlin VNA has performed 727 visits across disciplines. And this is under the prior year's accomplishments. So that would be 727 visits for the entire VNA for the year.
Aaliyah, you're still on. Do you mind answering that?
That might have been like an individual patient's number. It definitely doesn't sound like the
it shows
visits, but let
individual.
me,
It shows individual patients as 267. And
yeah,
then it shows
individual
total-
okay, I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
It shows, it's stating that Let's see. The VNA has performed 727 visits across disciplines. So I'm assuming that's across everything you've done for the year, 727 visits.
That may have been the number. I can sign into the system and look that up quickly for you if you'd like.
Yes, and how many people do you actually have going out to make these visits that are on staff, full-time people?
We have 3 full-time nurses and 3 full-time aides. The rest of the staff are contracted staff who are paid a one sum for the visit. They're not hourly rate.
So more or less more per diem style.
Yes, correct.
Okay, thank you.
If you can give me a moment, I'll pull that up and I'll just raise my hand when I have that number for you.
Sure, that'd be great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Anything else for Kevin on the finance side? Okay,
Make a
All right.
motion to adjourn.
so second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
So moved. We're gonna take a 5-minute break in between meetings. Is that okay?